Hey, welcome to 1500ESPN.com. I'm Derek Wetmore. This is Phil Mackey. It's here, Phil. Opening day at long last is finally here.
Yeah, this is the most buzzkill feeling opening day for Twins fans. Although I think it's being overstated how awful that they might be compared to the last few years. It's just that if they take a step forward and get to 70 or 72 wins, which would be a significant step forward in terms of wins from last year,
the feeling
it's
is
still god-awful.
Big whoop.
Exactly.
Now, I got you on here. We'll talk about our projections a little bit. First pitch, as we record this, we're about an hour away. This will be up on the website, presumably overnight, though, unless somebody thinks the video's that bad that they don't want it up there. I want to talk about rotation. I want to talk about the lineup and some of the problems there. But then I also want to spin it forward. What do Twins fans have to look forward to this season? Let's start with the rotation, because that's where all the money was spent this offseason. I think the general vibe is that they'll be competent.
Yeah, it's Kyle Gibson. Let's start with Kyle Gibson, because
who's
Kyle
your fifth
Gibson,
starter?
He is in terms of where he sits in the rotation.
Fifth starter.
But we had Glenn Perkins on today, and he's about the third person either on the team or in the front office over the last couple weeks that's had a lot of great things to say about Kyle Gibson. Now, you look at him last year in his major league debut, and people think 6 ERA, the guy was getting rocked on a regular basis. Even in the minor leagues when he would go at Rochester and pitch a shutout, but then he'd come back and pitch maybe 5 shaky innings. It's been since before Tommy John that he strung together consistency after consistency after consistency. But I do think now that he's 3 years removed from surgery, and now that he's gotten back to 150 innings under his belt last year,
right,
that I think fatigue will be a non-factor, at least until maybe later in the year once he gets to 180 innings. So I think confidence and fatigue were issues in his major league debut, 3-month stretch last year. I think those are hurdles that are probably going to be gone. And so I could see Kyle Gibson emerging as a really solid, maybe number 2, number 3 type starter. But on a good playoff team, which is where this thing would like to be headed in like 2 years, obviously. Mm-hmm. Phil Hughes at his best with the Yankees or Ricky Nolasco at his best at any point in his career are no better than number 3 starters on a good playoff team. So you're just kind of trying to sort through and see if you can get a bunch of guys who are decent number 3, number 4 starters to get you to the 6th inning on a regular basis and then hand it over to a bullpen that was actually 14th in ERA last year.
And worth noting, with all the big money they gave out this offseason, only Ricky Nolasco and Phil Hughes project to be here for even past next year.
Yeah.
Phil Hughes on a 3-year deal, obviously. Nolasco will be here for a while. But it's not like you're locked into bad contracts in, say, 2017 when you think you've got some of these great stud arms coming up. Shifting gears to the lineup, though, the thing that's driven me nuts today, it's driving you nuts, I know. I heard you talk about it on the radio. It's Kurt Suzuki's batting second. I don't think it's as big of a deal just because of where he's batting, but I think you alluded to this earlier, that it's a representation of a larger problem that the Twins have with understanding lineup construction, and why would you have a guy who cannot get on base batting so high in the lineup and taking away at bats?
I know for a fact, and you know for a fact, they have people behind the scenes. They've expanded their analytics department. It's not what the Rays or what the Astros have, and to me, that's a debit to the Twins. There's no reason why you can't have 8 guys in this department who all make $40,000 and eat pretzels for dinner. Just bring in a bunch of smart 23-year-old coders and have them work on things that other teams are working on. And one of the things that they do work on here with their department is lineup construction. And I know that department influenced Gardenhire to hit Joe Mauer second a lot last year. Mm-hmm. So why is it now that Mauer's back to third and Kurt Suzuki, who the last couple years has like a 275 on base percentage, why is he batting second in this lineup? Is this going to be the difference if Kurt Suzuki bats second 162 games? And he won't. He'll probably play 80 or 100 games, whatever he plays. Would it really make the difference between 70 wins and 90 wins? Absolutely not. But it's a microcosm of bad thinking process. Mm-hmm. Why are you still thinking we have to put a slap-hitting, handles the bat guy, veteran, in the number 2 hole when you know that that's just going to be an automatic out 3 times out of 4? It doesn't make any sense.
I think Gardenhire's quote to the Pioneer Press was that he likes having Suzuki there because he handles the bat and he won't panic. I don't care if he's going to panic. No, he won't panic
either. Joe Mauer won't panic in the 2 hole.
Having somebody that gets on base is inherently more valuable than having somebody who's been there before.
If the best thing we can say about Kurt Suzuki is that you won't panic hitting second. Well, I wouldn't panic either if I was getting paid like $3 million to hold a bat in my hand in the second spot in the order. It doesn't make any sense. But If we can get past that, I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing, him batting second. Once they find out, maybe he starts hot, who knows, but once they find out, hey, this is Kurt Suzuki, he's here to handle pitchers, not to get on base. And so it's almost like they kind of talked us into Kurt Suzuki's going to start more often than Hosmil Pinto. Okay, I guess we can live with that if we think that Kurt Suzuki is going to improve the starting rotation, because that's a big thing that needs to be improved. Mm-hmm. All right, well, that must mean that Hosmil Pinto is still he's going to catch once or twice a week, but he's still going to bat 5 or 6 days, right? Oh, no, he's not? Oh, because Gardenhire has an inherent fear of his starting catcher getting injured, and if the backup catcher is DHing, in the 1 in 300 chance that scenario plays out early in a game, mind you, because this might play out in the 8th inning and it wouldn't matter anyways.
I've heard this scenario from you before, and I like how you just put a number on it every time. It's
like 1 in 1,000 chance. Like, God forbid a 96-loss team needs to bat the pitcher for 2 innings in this colossal disaster scenario. But I guess as far as the whole, not just the lineup, but the whole roster as it is, the reason I was also so offended by the Jason Bartlett move as the 25th guy is because you're exposing 2 20-something-year-old outfielders to waivers. One of them who you lost, Alex Presley, to the Astros. Parmelee was the other one. And neither one of these guys is a franchise. In fact, Parmelee's been very disappointing. But by keeping a 34-year-old Jason Bartlett, who hasn't played quality innings or had quality at-bats in 3 years in the big leagues, by keeping him on the roster over those 2 20-somethings or over Chris Herman. To me, you put Chris Herman on the roster over anyone, whether it's Bartlett or Kubel or anyone. If you have this phobia of your backup catcher needing to be on the bench in case your starting catcher gets injured, if Chris Herman's on the roster, he can play multiple positions and you can bat Hosmil Pinto 6 days a week. And Hosmil Pinto, Derek, might be this team's 2nd, 3rd, or 4th best hitter.
It kind of depends how guys like Oswaldo Arcia, Aaron Hicks, Josh Willingham pan out this season, but there's no doubt Hosmil Pinto deserves to have a bat in his hand more than Kurt Suzuki. Mm-hmm. I guess I'll pin you down here towards the end of the video, and figuratively, not literally, don't worry.
Yeah, that might get weird.
I think.
Do we know each other that well?
I don't know. It's not really a choice. Like, I could probably physically overpower you if it were a decision. Bring you back on screen here to ask. A lot of people want you to project a win total. It's difficult to do at the beginning of the season, even with advanced projection systems and stuff. So many variables go into this. With that being said, I'm still going to ask you for your projected win total for the Twins.
I wrote about this on 1500ESPN.com. If they are to surprise us, the Twins, 5 things need to happen in some form. Aaron Hicks needs to break out. And these aren't unlikely things, but for all of them to happen at the same time, it's probably unlikely. Aaron Hicks needs to break out. Kyle Gibson needs to break out. Nolasco and Hughes need to at least be worth the money or at least be worthy number 3 starters. The bullpen needs to be rock solid, meaning probably a top 10 bullpen in all of baseball, because you don't have
last year.
Yep, and you don't have a starting rotation that's going to go 8 innings every time out. And something we haven't talked about, speaking of the lineup, number 5, Trevor Plouffe needs to mash. There's no Miguel Sano coming up this year. There's really no other threat to take Plouffe's job except for him just being terrible and them looking to shuffle a different option in. If Plouffe can get back to even half the guy we saw for 6 weeks in 2012, and hit 25 or 27 home runs and just be a little bit better on defense, that gives you a better chance. It's unlikely all 5 of those things happen. So I say somewhere in the 70, maybe the 68 to 75 win range. On the air today, I said 73 and 89, that they finally get off the 90-loss schneid. What about you?
Take one shorter than you. My Twitter projection, anywhere between 64 and 77 wins.
That's bold, yeah. Narrowing that margin down.
Taking a lot of heat for that, but I thought it was better than just...
Somewhere between like 65 and like 90 would be...
Just overstate. I'd rather not overstate confidence, but you're going to ask me for a number, and I'm going to say they win 72 games this year. 90 losses again. Possibly some changes at the end of the season. I don't know. Mm-hmm. If you haven't heard the announcement, I'll be covering the Twins for 1500 ESPN. It's kind of like an analyst role. I won't be a reporter. I'll go to all the home games, but I'll write columns off it and stuff. Of course, Phil's still going to be doing his columns, probably just stealing takes from his radio show and then writing them.
Or just having some intern, or maybe just have you go back. Hey, I said this at 10:20 today. Could you just
rewrite that? Yeah. And then put my Phil Mackey on it. I think that's a great plan for Twin season. That's what we hope to do. I hope you guys enjoy the coverage. It's all about the prospects and spinning it forward for the future. We'll try to do that here at 1500 as much as we can. Thanks for watching. For Phil Mackey, Derek Wetmore, 1500ESPN.com.